A few days ago, more than a dozen gunmen, some of them carrying grenades, stormed a television station in Ecuador. And you might have seen some of the dramatic footage on social media already. The attackers delivered this message, quote, "We are on air, so you know that you cannot mess with the mafia." And in Ecuador, that appears to be true. Just a few years ago, Ecuador was among the safest countries in all of Latin America. But beginning in 2020, that began to change. And it changed very quickly. From 2020 to 2022, the murder rate in Ecuador jumped by nearly 250%. Again, that's 250%. Political candidates now routinely get shot in the street. Car bombings are not uncommon. Just last year, a leading presidential candidate was gunned down leaving a campaign rally. What happened to Ecuador is pretty clear. It doesn't take a foreign policy expert to figure this out. The country's ports, with access to the Pacific Ocean, were taken over by drug traffickers and cartels who rapidly gained enormous power. That's why the majority of murders in the country take place in coastal towns. It's also why the presidential candidate was targeted. He promised to order the military to secure the ports, so he was assassinated. And now you can't even watch a television broadcast in Ecuador without seeing masked gunmen behind the anchor's desk. Now, this isn't to say Ecuador is a simple case or one that's directly comparable to any other country, but the top-line conclusion isn't hard to draw, and it's this: when you don't defend your country's borders, chaos follows very quickly. Now, a lot of institutions that you take for granted, whether they're presidential elections or news broadcasts, they suddenly become unreliable, to put it mildly. Things you thought were unthinkable begin to happen. And before you know it, you are displaced in your own country, no matter who you voted for. The residents of Brooklyn, New York, now understand that concept very well, or at least they should. Because this week, James Madison High School in Brooklyn canceled classes so that busloads of hundreds of illegal migrants could move into the school during bad weather. School functions that had been planned for months were postponed. Students were told that instead of coming to class, they should log on to the internet and learn remotely, which is to say, as we know from the remote learning experiment during COVID, that they won't learn anything at all. This is so hard to believe. It's so contrary to the very concept of a sovereign nation that I think it bears repeating. New York just ordered a public high school to displace American students, children who have every right to be in this country, in order to house criminal foreigners who cross the border illegally. I mean, it's hard to believe it's real, but we know it's real because the parents of students at James Madison High School have been filming what's happening. Watch.
How does it feel that you kicked all the kids out of school tomorrow? How does it feel? Do you feel good? I hope you feel good. I hope you all sleep really well tonight.
Why are you yelling at them?
Because I have a right to. That's why. That's why. Because I'm an aggravated mother. That's why. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Taking over my kids' school.
So that's a parent watching as the city, which she funds with her tax dollars, buses in hundreds of illegal aliens into her child's school. These are foreigners who haven't been vetted. No one has any idea who these people even are. But even if we did know exactly who these migrants were, it doesn't matter. They don't have a right to be in this country, much less in our schools. But in that footage, you see the city ushering these migrants into the school, and you can hear someone chastising this woman for daring to be upset about it. Our children, American children, should be the nation's top priority. I mean, that's so obvious it shouldn't need to be said, but we are putting adult foreigners above our own children. It is madness. And they're doing this at literal gunpoint, by the way. And all the parents can do is film, or they'll be arrested and charged with hate crimes, probably. So that's what some of them did. For the past 48 hours, parents have taken video of government agents moving equipment into their children's high school, including cots, so they can sleep in the gym and the hallways. You maybe never expected that schools would become refugee camps in an alleged first world country, but that's what's happening. Watch.
Oh, this is cots. This is beds. They're bringing in food. Why not? I gotta see where my tax dollars are going. Hold on.
By the way, it's great that there are a few parents out there who are filming this and are expressing their outrage. But the fact that every parent isn't out there protesting, the fact that there are only a few, is pathetic in and of itself. Now, there might be a reason for some of that, which is that the media isn't talking about this. You're not going to find that footage on the national news or even the local news. We checked with Libs of TikTok, the account that posted these clips, and she says that outside of Newsmax, nobody has tried to license these videos. You know, a few days ago, we played on the show a video, you may remember, of some random female track runner beating some random guy in a race. And that video was picked up by dozens of outlets, including the Today Show. But this story, which is arguably slightly more important than a casual race between random college kids, isn't getting anywhere close to the same. It's getting no attention. I checked to see if CNN or MSNBC or the Washington Post ran a story on this at all, and no, they didn't cover it. They didn't cover it at all. No media organizations, even the ones that claim to focus entirely on big events in the city of New York, are tracking down the parents to hear exactly what's happening here. But Libs of TikTok did, and she just spoke to one parent who's been watching all of this with horror. Listen to that.
We don't know what they're carrying around in them. They're going to be all over that building. It's 1,900 of them. And another parent was also saying that they can come in, they can stash drugs, they can stash weapons, whether it's a gun or a knife or whatever, because I'm sure you're aware there was a stabbing at Floyd Bennett with these migrants.
Mm-hmm.
And they can stash these things in the school. And God forbid, like when the kids go back to school tomorrow, one of these kids find this, whether it's drugs or a weapon. We were assured that the building is going to be completely sanitized, but we're not there. And that's why it was very disturbing to have one of the teachers come on and say that if you parents are so concerned, send your kids in with wipes, sanitizing wipes, and Lysol spray. That's disgusting.
A teacher said that at the board meeting?
At the meeting, yes.
Wow. That's like a slap in the face.
Yes. And she also made it seem like, why are we making a big deal about this? One day of remote learning is not going to hurt anyone, that we did it for a year and a half. Apparently, she's completely missing the point here. I mean, I love having my kids with me. It's not the fact that they're with us. Yes, thank God I have the ability to be home with my child. It's the principle behind this.
So just to recap, the school is telling parents to send their students to school with sanitizing wipes and Lysol to clean up after the illegal immigrants that they were forced to abandon the school for. You know, just in case the fumigation efforts aren't sufficient. So our kids, or if you are in Brooklyn, your kids are going to be the janitors cleaning up after the illegal immigrants. And they're telling the parents to shut up about the whole situation because COVID lockdown set the precedent. They did it during COVID. Even though it was extraordinarily damaging to the kids during COVID, and everybody knows that now and recognizes it. Anybody with any sense recognized it at the time. But if you were wondering why the left was so intent on implementing those lockdowns, well, there's your answer. They wanted a precedent they could use in the future. And already they're using it in order to house illegal migrants in public school. Now, 3 years ago, if anybody on the right had said that the left would use the COVID precedent to turn public schools into homeless encampments for illegal migrants, they would have been called an insane conspiracy theorist. And now here we are. I mean, this is a level of civil disorder that's so extreme that would have been so unthinkable just a few years ago that it defies any kind of traditional political analysis. This is destruction that doesn't benefit any particular political party over another. It's destruction that's calibrated to destroy the entire foundation of this country. And if you don't believe that, consider the fact that just a few months ago, illegal migrants in New York City started encroaching on the turf of the single most reliable voting bloc for the Democratic Party, which is black people on welfare. And these migrants started showing up early to snag their handouts. which enraged the black residents of New York. Again, this is like something out of a sketch comedy show. It would be funny if it weren't so tragic. Watch.
In one neighborhood in Queens between NYCHA tenants and newly arrived migrants.
Wow, tensions are growing with not enough food to go around.
Why do we have to take the butt of everything? Okay, this community here is already suffering.
The residents living in NYCHA's Queensbridge houses look forward to the mobile food pantries that show up weekly. But over the past year, they have witnessed 8,000 migrants move into their neighborhood, and they have also noticed the migrants are also starting to take their stuff.
They was first online for the turkeys this morning. If they tell you to be there at 11 o'clock, you get there like 10:30, 10:45, but they already out there. The line is from over there to over here.
Free food giveaways, especially during the holidays, have become a source of tension between longtime New Yorkers struggling to get by and newly arrived migrants who are using the system to survive. A month ago, one altercation got so heated between a resident and a migrant, someone ended up in the hospital.
We would never turn anyone away for a meal, but there simply just is not enough for both NYCHA residents and the migrant shelter residents.
Now, it's easy to say, and it makes sense to say that, hey, I mean, you people voted for this, and you're getting what you voted for, which is true. But at the same time, it should still infuriate you, no matter where it's happening, to see foreigners from another country who don't belong here and aren't supposed to be here legally just showing up and taking whatever they want, cutting the line, literally, in front of actual American citizens. Now, at this point, you might be tempted to dismiss everything that's happening in New York City, the migrants taking over the high schools, the hotels, the welfare lines, as maybe somehow an isolated incident. But it's not. This is happening in major cities that are nowhere near the southern border. It's not just New York that's starting to look like Ecuador. Here's what Chicago's O'Hare Airport looks like right now. Okay, the airport, one of the biggest in the country, is now walling off entire sections so that they can be used as migrant encampments. Just watch a few seconds of this. All right, now you might see that, and it goes on, and they have actual areas that are as I said, walled off. And granted, people in airports already tend to splay out on the ground and treat terminals like campgrounds. But, I mean, this is taking that to another level. And nobody ever voted to turn O'Hare International Airport into a migrant shelter, okay? No politician ran on that platform. There was no referendum. It wasn't even a poll. It just happened without anybody's consent. The government is now ceding critical infrastructure to foreigners who have no right to be in the country. Pretty soon, they're not simply going to be ceding public buildings. They'll take private property too. Already the government is laying the groundwork for that. And once again, COVID set the precedent. Remember when the Biden administration banned evictions? He effectively nationalized the rental properties. The CDC took over and decided whether people were allowed to be evicted or not. Now public officials are once again suggesting that private property must be surrendered, and this time for the benefit of illegal migrants. Just a few months ago, politicians in Massachusetts and New York demanded that residents offer up their homes to foreign nationals. Watch.
It is my vision to take the next step to this, to go to the faith-based locales, and then move to private residence. There are residents who are suffering right now because of economic challenges. They have spare rooms, they have locales, and if we can find a way to get over the 30-day rule and other rules that government has in its place, we can take that $4.2 billion, 4.3 it may be now, that we potentially will have to spend, and we can put it back in the pockets of everyday New Yorkers, everyday houses of worship, instead of putting it in the pockets of corporations.
Most importantly, if you have an extra room or suite in your home, please consider hosting a family. Safe housing and shelter is our most pressing need. Become a sponsor family. You can contact the Brazilian Worker Center for more information on how you can step up if you're willing to have an additional family be part of your family. If you're a local official, a college president, a business owner, or a faith leader with an available building or space in your community, please work with us to offer it as a shelter site. If you're a social service provider, please consider becoming an emergency assistance homeless shelter provider. Our resources are stretched thin there as well. And if you're a hotel or a motel owner, consider opening it up for emergency assistance. If you're a landlord or a property owner, we can use you too and connect you with service providers to help transition families into permanent housing. Everyone has something they can offer.
If you're a landlord or property owner, we can use you too. Very appropriately phrased, isn't it? We can, not even like we can use your property, we can use you. That's what they're saying in Massachusetts. They're not telling these migrants to get out of the country. They're not talking about enforcing immigration law. Instead, they're telling American citizens to surrender their property. This is one of the things Americans fought the Revolutionary War to prevent. That's why the Constitution prohibits quartering troops in people's homes. It used to be that everybody agreed that your home was sacrosanct. Democrats don't see it that way anymore. So what we're seeing is no longer abstract. This is no longer a debate about illegal immigration and open borders or whatever. What we're seeing are illegal migrants, criminals, taking over your airports and your child's schools. At this rate, it won't be too long until these criminals start walking into television stations with grenades. It is no longer unthinkable for the government to nationalize private property to quarter these foreign nationals in homes and businesses. This is the inevitable endpoint of a country that doesn't defend its borders or enforce its laws. Ecuador and the United States are separated by thousands of miles, trillions of dollars of GDP, but they have one thing in common, which is that criminals will take over if they are given the opportunity. The only real difference in that respect is that in this country, unlike Ecuador, the federal government will overtly help the criminals take control. They won't even try to hide it. And once criminals take over in this country, as in Ecuador, they will not respect the rights of children to go to school or the rights of candidates to run for office or the rights of journalists to broadcast their news reports. They respect and understand only one thing, which is power. And right now, all they see is weakness. And they will exploit that weakness until one of two things happen. Either every building in this country becomes a potential migrant encampment, or every one of these invaders is sent back by force to wherever they came from. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.